What's up, guys? My name is Izzy, and I'm here to provide you my picks and predictions for UFC Saudi Arabia, Israel Adesanya versus Nasruddin Imavov. Now, like I said, a little new to YouTube. This is my second video now. Last time was the second card of the year, which we didn't do so well on the predictions. We started off pretty well, ended up going 7-6 in total. Just absolutely brutal, to be honest. Even the bets were absolutely brutal. The parlay of the week loss, which was gut wrenching. But I'll be looking to bounce back from that. And this is a fun card. It's only 11 fights. There was 13 about 48 hours ago. 2 fights have canceled, so can't really do much about that. But like I said, this is going to be a fun card, and I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, 11 fights. Let's get down to it. All right. So first fight of the card, it's Hamdi versus Jamal Pogues. Now we'll start with Hamdi. I'm not even going to try to butcher his last name. He's only had one fight in the promotion so far, and it was actually a win, a split decision win against Dontel Mays. Ends up being a no contest because he was tampering with some, whatever. He had to get drug tested. Apparently he was tampering with it, so ended up being a no contest. Unfortunate for him, but kind of it is what it is. That fight wasn't too bad. I mean, he started off hot. He got knocked down in the first round. Started to slow down. Obviously, he's an Olympic wrestler, so he was using, he had some solid takedowns. Dontel Mays, pretty decent takedown defense as well. At some point, though, there were moments where Dontel Mays was piecing him up, and Hamdi really didn't know what to do. There was just little small mistakes that Dontel Mays made that allowed Hamdi to take him down and just kind of hold him there. There were moments where the ref did stand them up. Whether you'd like it or not, he wasn't really doing much in specific moments, but he was in deep control in a majority of that fight, and ends up getting a split decision win. Probably should have been unanimous decision, to be honest, but you know what? You can't really fight that. Can't do anything about that. Now he's fighting Jamal Pogues. Jamal Pogues is a sneaky, sneaky 2-1 in the UFC. If you count the Contender Series wins, he's 4-1. Not too shabby. Okay, not too shabby. He's beaten Petersen. Not honestly, not a bad fight. He lost to Mick Parkin, which is also, we've seen the run that Mick Parkin's on, and then he just beat Thomas Petersen. Thomas Petersen was also a great win. And like I said, when it comes down to how this fight's going to go, or how I believe this fight's going to go, we know that Hamdi, who hasn't been in action in a while, is going to be looking for takedowns. He has some heavy hands. He's going to want to stand in the pocket when he can. Pogues is going to try to just, level him out, stay just away from the power early, stay away from the clinch, because Hamdi's going to want to push pressure him on the cage. Now, Pogues is easily his toughest test yet. Can I say that the other way around? I don't really think so. Like I said, Jamal Pogues is 6'3", 77-inch reach advantage, or 77-inch reach, 77% takedown defense. He's averaging 3.36 significant strikes per minute. 4-1 against Hamdi, who's 6'2", 72-inch reach. Like I said, he has the reach advantage by 5 inches, which is massive. It just feels like, especially because Hamdi hasn't been in action in 2.5 years, almost 3 years, he might get gassed in there. That first round might be scary. It might be, might be close, but it really doesn't feel like he's going to be able to do enough against someone like Pogues, who's just kind of on a tear. Like even his loss against Mick Parkin, Mick Parkin was piecing him up. I believe it was like the first fight of the card as well. It just, when there's just levels to this, and obviously Pogues has been a lot more active on the feet. He's significantly better. He just doesn't rely on his power. So it just feels like he's going to be able to do enough, whether it goes to a decision or he ends up hurting Hamdi, because like I said, Hamdi's gotten hurt by Jamal Pogues as well, who's not as dynamic, not as elusive. I could very well see Pogues getting a finish here. So my official pick will be Jamal Pogues to win by TKO or decision. If we were to look at the odds, it's a damn near pick 'em. Pogues now an underdog on both DraftKings and FanDuel. If we do FanDuel, he opened at a minus 146. People are loving Hamdi. Me, not so much. I'm going to give the edge to Jamal Pogues, like I said, to win by TKO or decision. Next fight of the card is Bogdan Grad versus Lucas Alexander. Now, Bogdan Grad, 14-2. He's 1-1 in Contender Series, so he had won his last one by split decision in this past season. Obviously, still awarded a contract. In his first Contender Series fight, got absolutely smoked by Tom Nolan. I don't know how to really grade that, considering Tom Nolan's okay as well. Has 2 fights right after that loss. You know, I mean, he's not really fighting the best competition possible. I mean, he fought someone who was 12-7, other dude 13-5. Not that impressive. Split decision win, like I said in the other Contender Series fight. He's fighting Lucas Alexander. He's 8-4, 1-2 in the UFC. He came in heavy, absolutely got smoked in his last fight, but has a win over Steven Petersen. Lost to Brito, not a bad loss at all. This is going to be a weird fight, honestly, in my opinion. Alexander has more experience in the octagon, despite him only being 1-2. Like I said, was dropped, was smoked in his last fight. But that win against Petersen was nice. He had a knockdown himself. He outstruck him by 60 strikes. So we know that Alexander's going to want to come out there guns blazing. Grad hasn't really showed anything that's special in his fights. Tom Nolan had 2 knockdowns against him. Not really going to look too deep into it. I just think that Alexander's going to he's going to overwhelm him early and probably likely gets a finish. So my official pick will be Lucas Alexander to win by knockout or TKO. Similar to the first fight, it's damn near a pick 'em. I mean, at this point, on FanDuel, Lucas Alexander is a minus 125, but he opened at a plus 168, so people are loving him. There was a massive jump between the 25th and the 26th, where Lucas Alexander was a plus 104, ends up being a minus 102, and it's just been dropping ever since. So still not a bad spot to take him. I don't think he really swells up past minus 130. If anything, the tides will probably shift a little bit. But plus 168 was great value just a week ago. It's actually kind of insane. But like I said, my official pick will be Lucas Alexander to win by knockout or TKO. Jasudavicius versus Bueno Silva. Now, this is a very tricky fight for me to predict because I feel like I'm a little biased considering my voice is cracked. Considering that I'm a big Bueno Silva fan. I don't even know why. I just think she's a dog. But we'll start with JJ. JJ 12-3, 6-2 in the UFC. I mean, her losses are not bad. She lost to Natalia Silva, a few fights ago. Wins 2, bounces back, loses to Tracy Cortez in a very close fight. That fight was a pick'em. We ended up going with Tracy Cortez. It went our way, but it could have gone. I mean, that fight was only stand up because they're obviously both wrestler-based fighters. So, of course, they're going to stand on the feet, and I think Tracy just did a little bit more. But since then, JJ, 3 fights in a row, including 2 Performance of the Night bonuses. I mean, she's just been killing. She's just been dogging people. And a lot of it has to do with her wrestling. I mean, she's just so dominant on the ground. She will suffocate you on the ground. It's absolutely absurd. It's extremely impressive, to be honest. And not a lot of people have been able to crack the code. I mean, she even dominated Miranda Maverick, who we know all she can do is wrestle. She really just dominated her. Then, of course, like I said, lost to Tracy Cortez. Cortez, I mean, at the end of the day, I know her last loss was pretty brutal, was the main event on short notice. Still a very good fighter, so I can't say that that's a bad loss. Natalia Silva, that was 3 years ago, and we've seen the monster Natalia Silva, who just beat Andrade a few months ago. probably one, maybe two fights away from fighting for a title. Aren't not bad losses. And then when we look at Bueno Silva, 10-4 in in her career, 5-4 in the UFC with one draw and one no contest. Now the no contest is a little silly in my opinion. If it really is, has to do with like Adderall and stuff. Probably should be 6-4 in the UFC because it makes her run look less impressive because she was on a 3-fight win streak, beats Holly Holm, ends up being a no contest. Should really be 4 fights, but she's still awarded a title shot right after that against Pennington. Looked great in the first 2 rounds. We bet on Bueno Silva thinking that she'd be able to do enough. She was a favorite. Probably shouldn't have been a favorite because then I forgot about Pennington's pressure and the fact that Pennington can stay there for 5 rounds. Bueno Silva just didn't have the best cardio, was getting taken down by Raquel Pennington. It was nasty. Next fights Chesson. Honestly, Macy might be one of the most underrated fighters in the promotion, or at least I should say in her division. Ends up stopping her by doctor stoppage because of a cut. Now, it's still a TKO win, and I'm going to consider that a TKO win because she just absolutely brutalized her face. It was nasty. That cut was nasty, and it deserved to be stopped. So, Mayra Bueno Silva was stopped in her last fight. Now, something I've noticed about JJ and watching her fights and her most recent fights is she's not just looking to take you down and hold you there. She's looking to do damage. Even if she doesn't get the finish, she's looking to absolutely put your face through the canvas. And I'm hoping that even the stats can show that because when you watch her fights, I mean, she's so dominant now. It's absurd. I mean, she technically was outstruck by Ariane Lipski, but 3 takedowns, a sub attempt, which ended up being the finish. 2. I mean, this fight against Priscilla, 93 strikes. Most of those were on the ground. She absolutely smoked her. In the ground. 43% takedown accuracy, 2.5 takedowns per fight on average. We know she's not going to get taken down by Bueno Silva. Now, Bueno Silva, 66% takedown defense. Now, not bad. I'll say not bad. But JJ, the way she's been looking, how dominant she's been looking, that takedown defense isn't going to hold much. 29% takedown accuracy. We know she's not going to try to take her down unless it's a fake. Try to get a sub. Bueno Silva might invite going to the ground. I don't think it's very smart because we've seen that JJ, despite just, her wrestling base, has honestly great submission defense. And even if she is like looking a little, even though there might be positions where she's probably a little, it's going to look a little weird, a little scary. If you're a JJ fan or a JJ better, I wouldn't really look like she'll know how to get out of those possessions and still stay on the ground, still maintain the dominance, still maintain the control. So wherever this fight goes, even on the feet, I mean, she just looks so much better. Her jabs are so much stickier. I just don't see how she loses this fight, despite me being a Bueno Silva fan. Now, when we look at the odds too, JJ, I mean, she's minus 230. Open at a plus 100 last year, okay? She was like a minus 192 about a few weeks ago. She's just been kind of leveling out in the 200s right now, minus 200s. Bueno Silva, plus 190, not bad. I mean, listen, if you were to take Bueno Silva, there's only one way you should take her, and it's by sub, which is probably like plus 400 or 500. It's the only way she's going to win. She's not going to outstrike JJ. She's not going to knock JJ out. I mean, there's no other way for her to win. Not a bad prop bet to take. I put a little red flag here because obviously I'm a Bueno Silva fan, but also JJ, I mean, no matter how, like I said, despite all her control, how well she could get caught, but that'd probably be the only way she loses. Overall, I still think she's going to be the more dominant fighter. So give me Jasmine Jasudavicius to win this by decision. We have Terrence McKinney versus Damir Hadzovic. Now, I'm not going to look too deep into this fight, except it's a red flag fight for me. Terrence McKinney hasn't fought in about 9-10 months because Ribovics absolutely mauled him in 37 seconds. That head kick was beautiful, just absolutely smoked him. Before that, I mean, he's had some. Terrence McKinney's 5-4 in the UFC. Just weird, just not worth the price, I'll tell you right now. Now, Demir has not fought since 2022 when he lost to Mark DeCasey, in July of 2022. Hasn't fought since. That's just not a fight I'm willing to bet on, because when you see the odds, I'm not going to go too deep into it. Terrence McKinney is a minus 460 on FanDuel. Started minus 520. And then ended up jumping to minus 360. Probably would have taken it at 360 for a parlay piece, but you can never really fully trust Terrence McKinney, and I don't plan on doing it now. But I'm going to go Terrence McKinney to win this by TKO or decision, just because sometimes he just kind of lets off the gas a little bit after the first round. Might end up seeing a decision if he doesn't get a finish early. So I'm going to go Terrence McKinney to win this by TKO or decision. But not a fight I'm willing to take. Like I said, still a red flag fight for me. I'm not in love with it, to be honest. Now, next fight is a fun one. We have Shamil Gaziev versus Thomas Petersen. Now, Shamil Gaziev costed us, I believe, a parlay of the week against Rozenstruik. He's 13-1, and that was a dumb decision by me. He's 2-1 in the UFC. First fight, Budai smoked him, lost to Rozenstruik, like I said, and then beat Dontel Mays. Now, that win was pretty impressive. I mean, when you look at the stats, the stats don't really exemplify that at all. He only outstruck him by 4 strikes, 2 takedowns. He was controlling him a majority of the fight. I mean, Dontel Mays couldn't really do much in 3 rounds. Gaziev, but the point of that fight was to show, or for Gaziev to show, that he's like okay with being there and present for 3 rounds. Because obviously against that fight with Rozenstruik, that ended in the 4th round. After that first round, he looked gassed, like so gassed, and it was scary. So I feel like he had a point to prove. He really did have a point to prove. Did he do that enough for this fight against Thomas Petersen? Because when we see Thomas Petersen, 9-2, he went 6-1 in LFA, which is very impressive. 1-1 in the UFC. Now, lost to Jamal Pogues in his UFC debut. Not a bad loss at all, to be honest. Jamal Pogues, I mean, like I said, we're betting on him most likely, like in his first fight, or in the first fight of the night. Not a bad loss. Only got outstruck by 7 significant strikes. And Thomas Petersen did land a takedown. Pogues still was very dominant. It seemed like Pogues' unanimously decision was the right choice for him to win that fight. Now, when we see Petersen overall, right, he just got a win against Muhammad Usman where he outstruck him and he took him down. Very well deserved. I believe he was an underdog for that fight, or it was close to a pick'em. He looked really good. And honestly, I just don't. My fear here is because Thomas Petersen does have the reach disadvantage. As you can see, he's 6'1", 74-inch reach, and Gaziev is 6'4", 78-inch reach. That's a lot. That's a lot for someone who's going to need to keep this standing, which I think he can absolutely do. The beauty about this fight is that they both have 100% takedown defense, which most likely means this is going to be a stand-up fight. And I'll be very honest with you, I lean Petersen on the stand-up. If he gets taken down, it could get a bit scary, but he'll know how to get up. Gaziev's obviously massive, but there's only so much pressure that he's going to be able to do, and I don't really see him controlling the fight like that for 3 rounds. I think Petersen's going to be able to get the best of him at some point. Unless Gaziev gets something early, an early TKO, I don't really see him doing enough, especially because it's such a different fight than the Dontel Mays fight. Obviously different than the Rozenstruik fight. Rozenstruik was able to stuff those takedowns, but a significantly better striker than everyone I'm talking about right now. including Thomas Petersen. But Petersen can hold him. He can hold his own on the feet, which is why I'm not really scared against betting on him. To be honest, when we look at the odds, I mean, where is he? Plus 260 on FanDuel, open at plus 280. I mean, it's dropping a little bit. I don't think it's going to drop that much at some point because people love Gaziev. I mean, I've bet on Gaziev multiple times at this point. I bet on him in his last fight against Dontel Mays as well. He's going to stay around the minus 300s for sure. There's no reason for him not to. But regardless, I lean Thomas Petersen here as a big dog, plus 260. If it stays on the feet, we've seen Gaziev's weakness. It's still his gas tank because if he's not able to take someone down, is he going to be able to keep that same, just that same persistence on the feet for 3 rounds? Does he have the cardio for that? We know he has the cardio if he's able to take people down and hold them there. We haven't really seen much else after that. Thomas Petersen, on the other hand, if he gets taken down, can he get the fuck up? One could hope. But if it stays on the feet, we know what he's about. We know that he can outstrike Gaziev as well. I just don't really like this spot for Gaziev at all, which is why my official pick is for Thomas Petersen, the dog, our second dog of the night, to win by decision. Next fight, I'm not going to spend too much time on this fight because this is a red flag fight all around for me. All around, not even fucking around. This is a big red flag fight. I am not a fan of Muhammad Naimov. I think he's kind of a cheater. We saw that fight against Nathaniel Wood. I mean, he did absolutely everything possible to cheat to win that fight. It was a nasty win. Then Eric Silva gets hurt in his fight. Eric Silva was a massive underdog. Naimov was a minus 450. He's probably going to win anyways. And then we saw that fight against Felipe Lima where we did bet on Lima. Lima's first fight came on short notice, and it was a close fight, probably 1-1 going into the third. Arguably could have been 2-0 Naimov, but I doubt it. Probably 1-1. And what does Lima do? Gets on his back and chokes him out. I mean, you can't get better than that. It was beautiful, and I was very happy for it because, like I said, I'm not a big fan of Naimov. Now he's facing Ofli. Now Ofli, Jesus Christ, Ofli was on The Ultimate Fighter, ended up going to the finals, fights Santos. Santos absolutely wrecks him. Absolutely wrecks him. I don't really like Ofli. I'll be honest with you. I just don't think he's UFC caliber. I don't think Naimov is either. I just think Naimov is just slightly better. I think he edges him out just a little bit. When we look at the odds, Naimov minus 300 ended up from minus 200. I think people are looking into that Ofli knockout maybe a little bit too much, maybe even including me. But I'm still going to lean Naimov to win this by TKO or submission, even though I'm probably not going to bet it. I kind of hate this fight. Next fight on the card. This is a fun one too. Ferris Ziam versus Mike Davis. Now Ziam, 16-4. He's 6-2 in the UFC. 4-fight win streak. Very solid 4-fight win streak, to be honest. His last fight against Frivola, smoked Frivola. Absolutely smoked Frivola. Good fight against Pogues. Good fight against Jai Herbert, which was honestly a shocker. Pretty big underdog in that fight as well. And then a fight against Figlak. Honestly, an impressive 4-fight win streak. He's facing Mike Davis, who I wish we've seen more of, to be honest. He's 11-2, 4-1 in the UFC. Like I said, 4-fight win streak, I should say, in the UFC, but 5 fights since 2019. Only 1 fight in 2024. It was against Levy. Levy's not that good, obviously. Was supposed to fight Drew Dober. Just hasn't been able to stay healthy, and it's annoying because I think he's so good. We'll start with Ziam. He's 6'1", 75-inch reach. When you see his style, I mean, Pogues made a split decision because he couldn't defend a takedown, but he's outstriking his opponents. He even outstruck Jai Herbert. It felt like Jai Herbert was a little hesitant at times, But regardless, he outstruck him, and that's a massive thing to do. He outstruck Matt Frivola. Frivola is just looking for power punches. Now, 67% takedown defense, just a little under 3 strikes per minute. Mike Davis, like I said, you can't really. A lot of these fights are so long ago, it's really hard. I mean, one of his fights, his first win in the UFC, was a fight night that had Michelle Waterson as the main event against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. What are we doing? Like, come on. But regardless, I mean, when you see his averages, right? He's averaging a little under 3 takedowns a fight, a little over 5 strikes a minute. I mean, these are impressive. He had 139 strikes against Gifford, 108 against Mason Jones. He was standing toe-to-toe with Borshev. I mean, he's just such an impressive fighter. And I hope that he gets this win because he deserves it. I think he can get this win. I think he's much better than Ziam, regardless of Ziam's momentum. So I'm going to go with Mike Davis. When we look at the odds, I mean, Mike Davis at this point is a minus 146. He opened at a minus 280. And it's just been jumping. And I'm just like kind of confused because he's really good. Like he's really good. Had he been healthy, he would have probably been in the title picture by now at this point. But I mean, 5 fights in 6 years, not a good look. But if he's healthy enough to fight, I'm going to take him. Absolutely going to take him. So give me Mike Davis to win this by sub or decision. Now, next fight, maybe an even more interesting fight. It's Said Nurmagomedov versus Vinicius Oliveira. Now, we'll start with Vinicius. 21-3, 2-0 in the UFC, 1-0 in Contender Series. Last fight against Ricky Simón, I mean, he was very impressive, to be honest. Ricky Simón is obviously very short, very small, but Vinicius was still able to piece him up. I mean, 96 strikes against 42, even got a takedown in there. Really secured a nice unanimous decision win. Wasn't boring, just absolutely outclassing Simón. I mean, knockout of the year against Sapai. Knockout of the year. Absolutely creamed him. Absolutely smoked him with a flying knee and just 19 seconds left in the fight. It was brutal. It was nasty. Like I said, 2-0, 3-0 technically with Dana White Contender Series. Now Nurmagomedov, he's 7-2. 7-2. Yeah, 7-2. Losses to Barcelos a few years ago. Barcelos still got it apparently. And Jonathan Martinez just 2 fights ago. His last fight was a submission win against Gafarov. That was actually very impressive. It was early too. I remember watching that. I didn't even tape that fight because I remember it. I was at a bar watching it because it was Islam Volk 2. But that fight against Jonathan Martinez where he lost a unanimous decision, he outstruck him and still took him down with more sub-attempts. But Jonathan Martinez, we know on the feet he's dangerous, those leg kicks. I mean, I just felt like Said just didn't do enough to get that win, rightfully so. People might think that he just maybe was robbed or whatever. Not at all. Jonathan Martinez, now this is where things get interesting, right? Because when you look at his 2 losses, I mean, even the loss against Barcelos was a few years ago, so we'll focus on the Martinez one. I mean, Vinicius can carry a very similar game plan if he wanted to. Stay on the feet. If you stay on the feet, he has 68% takedown defense. Not the best, to be honest. He even averages a takedown. He just is a massive dude. He's a massive bantamweight. I mean, he just looks stocky. You know what I'm saying? He's averaging a little under 6 significant strikes, significant strikes per minute. That's dangerous. That's actually dangerous. It's always hard fading a Nurmagomedov, but Oliveira has just been on such a tear. It's almost wrong to just look at it from a paper standpoint and just see like just how the matchup fares with each other. And I just think that Oliveira is just such a big bantamweight. It's going to be hard to take him down. Said's not just going to be able to get on his back and choke him out. I mean, Oliveira despite him wanting to just be on the feet the whole time, still sound on the ground. He might get taken down once. As long as he doesn't stay in that position, he'll know that he'll have to get up against someone like Saeed. Don't give up your back in those moments. I think he can win, honestly. It's going to be close. Honestly, I think it's going to be a very close fight. For those odds, they're not bad. Plus 144. He opened it at plus 164. I'm not in love with it. I wish he was at like a plus. I wish this line went up, and I wish he was at like a plus 200. I'd hammer that line. Almost happened again. I'd hammer that line. But at plus 144, I'm not in love with it. But regardless, I'm still going to choose the dog. I'm still going to choose Vinicius Oliveira to win this by decision. Now, 3 fights left. We're only getting started. All right, Sergey, 18-3. He's on a skid a little bit. 2-fight skid. Lost to Tom Aspinall to win the heavyweight belt. Fights his old training partner, Volkov. Volkov absolutely outclasses him for 3 rounds. I mean, it was brutal. Volkov was just using his range. That jab was sticky. He was getting out of harm's way. He just wasn't presenting any real danger to Volkov at all. At all. But before those 2 losses, he was 6-1 in the UFC. That first loss was a few years ago against Overeem, where he was just getting taken down, and then he just got TKO'd. But he was on a tear. I mean, what was it? 6 first-round finishes is insane. Fights Tom Aspinall. Aspinall just a little better than him. It's just what it is. Volkov has been on an absolute run, was robbed in his last fight. So those aren't horrible losses. Arguably the 2 best heavyweights in the division. I will put Volkov up there. I don't really... We can count John Jones, who has 2 fights, but I think Volkov is top 3 heavyweight right now. Absolutely. He's improved significantly in every way if you've seen him for the last few years. He's just completely upped his game. So not bad losses. Now Rozenstruik, he's a little streaky as well. 15-5. He's 9-5 in the UFC. 2 straight wins. But was on a little bit of a weird streak. But then when we see his losses, right? That Ngannou fight. Francis tried to kill him because Rozenstruik was kind of talking shit. I remember the build up to that fight. He was kind of talking shit, and Ngannou was like, "I'm gonna kill you." And what did he do? He murdered him. Lost to Cyril Gane, not a bad loss. Decision. Lost to Curtis Blades. Lost to Volkov. Lost to Jailton. I mean, his wins, Dawkins, Gaziev's not bad. Tai Tuivasa. When we see his wins, we're like, his wins are okay. His losses are against great people. When we see this matchup against Sergey, there's an issue here, right? Because we know Rozenstruik is not going to take him down. We know that's not his motive. That's not how he fights. He has not taken anyone down in his UFC career. I mean, he's a kickboxer. He's had like 1 million kickboxing fights. Of course he's not going to do that. But are you going to want to do that against someone like Sergey, who also doesn't have a takedown? Sergey's 6'3", 84-inch reach. So here's the thing. Sergey has the longer reach, and he's taller. And Rozenstruik is not going to just be able to stand in the pocket the way he wants to. It might be the only way he wins. And he's going to have to take risks that are far beyond what he probably expects is going to happen, because Sergey, regardless, is a monster. Regardless of these last 2 losses, he's a monster. He's coming out for blood, for revenge. And this is a perfect matchup for him, for someone who's not going to try to take him down and work the clinch with him. He's going to stand and bang, and I think Sergey takes his head off, straight off of his body. He might rip it like that. He might just fucking rip his head off his body. If this line, see, these are those lines that I know it's nasty, but if I was a millionaire, I'd probably put a lot of money on Sergey. Sergey opened at minus 250 earlier this month, dropped to minus 310. Not bad. I mean, not a bad parlay piece at all. DraftKings minus 305. Not a bad parlay piece at all. I don't hate it at all. My official pick will be Sergey to win this by knockout or TKO. Co-main event, Sherrillet versus Michael Page. Sherrillet 15-0. His last fight, double spinning back fist. Insane win in the second round. About to go to the third. Pretty competitive, we could say, up until that point, but he was winning the fight. 4-0 in the UFC. I mean, listen, for a middleweight, kind of small to be honest, just very quick on his feet. Just wants to stay on the feet. We saw he was having some troubles with Bruno Silva in that first fight with his takedowns, but not bad at all. And he's been slowly progressing, fighting better people as the times go on. Michael Page, we know Venom, 22-3, 1-1 in the UFC. Cool. He beat my goat in grappling a few weeks ago or months ago at this point. Beat Kevin Holland, used his wrestling a lot. We know Kevin Holland just likes to get taken down, like he prefers to, like a weirdo. Ian Gary was piecing Ian Gary up on the feet, just couldn't get him off his back. That's the only reason Gary won, and it was a great way to win. Honestly, it was the smart thing to do against someone like Page. Now, Michael Venom Page is a welterweight at heart. Not many things have been going right for him in terms of matchups and whatever, trying to find a fight. So he was like, "Fuck it, I'm pretty heavy right now. I'll go to middleweight against someone who's kind of a smaller welterweight as well, or middleweight. I'm sorry. I see. I mean, when we look at even the striking and then we look at the reach and everything, everything's pretty similar. Page is 6'3", 79-inch reach. I mean, a massive reach advantage. I'm sorry. Sarah Bullet usually likes to work with his jab and just likes to move a lot. Michael Venom Page doesn't stop moving as well. This is going to be a very nice chess match. It's even the main event where it can go either way. But I just feel like this is easily Sarah Bullet's toughest matchup. I mean, we saw Ian Gary, who is a great striker, struggle with Venom on the feet. What do we think Sarah Bullet's going to do against Venom? It's not like people are cracking Venom like that in the UFC, at least so far. We've seen him cracked before a few years ago, but he's not presenting anything that I've seen. Maybe that's double spinning back fist. But is he going to stay in that close with Venom? I don't know if he's going to be able to. We've just seen so much from MVP in these past few years, aside from the UFC. For me to think that he can lose to someone like Sharabalet at this point, this is not MVP's hardest test. This is arguably a step down from Gary, regardless of weight class. And when we look at the odds, Venom is a plus 146 on FanDuel. He just keeps going up, and people are going to keep betting on Sharabalet. And not a bad thing to do. I mean, he's undefeated for a reason. He's still very good. Look at this line. This line is just jumping. This shit is crazy. I don't like it, though. I just don't like it. I like the underdog. Give me MVP to win this by decision. I know it's Saudi. I know they're like, oh, it's Saudi. He's going to get robbed. I just think that he's a better fighter, so we're going to go with MVP to win this by decision. Main event, we have Izzy versus Imavov. Izzy, 24-4, obviously has been just on a weird. He's lost 3 of his last 4. Last 2, obviously, Sean Strickland and DDP. He was looking good against DDP, just wasn't able to fully just, be in the fight, be present. He put on a lot of weight for that fight, and it just seemed like it kind of just regressed him a little bit. Now, Imavov is on a tear. He's 15-4, 7-2 in the UFC. He's on a 3-fight win streak. Should be a 4-fight win streak, to be honest, if it wasn't for that no contest against Chris Curtis where he was winning. Last loss was right before that against Sean Strickland, where it was weird. I mean, he came in on short notice and was kind of picking up steam later in the fight. It's very hard to do against someone like Sean Strickland because he's just always in your face. Like, he's constantly going to be there and pressuring you. But I still think that it's going to be a very close fight. Regardless of Izzy's age, regardless of how we feel he's been slightly regressing in his career. When we look at who he's been fighting, it's really tough to fade Izzy. Like I said, fought DDP. We know DDP is just a weird orthodox style. He was having success on the feet, just made a mistake on the ground. I was watching that fight, and I was like, why are you giving up your back? Obviously, it's so much harder to say from this point, but still kind of an insane thing, and you're just like, dog, why? But that Sean Strickland fight just looked like he wasn't there. Since he got pieced up in that first round, just wasn't present, wasn't there. Something in there is just not ticking. Maybe now he is hungry. First non-title fight in since Anderson Silva in 2019. Maybe that's the hunger he needed to, pick it up and want to win a fight again, want to get back in the title picture. He really just needs 2 fights, to be honest. He needs this win and then probably someone else. And this is a massive step for Imavov too, and an opportunity for him too. I mean, he's a dog. He has 3 losses by decision. Like I said, kind of lets it go by sometimes. But he has some massive wins against Elite. He had a great win against Cannonier, where Cannonier was having success at some point in that fight early, and we had Imavov to win as an underdog. Cannonier was having success. Brendan Allen was a great win in his last fight. We took Brendan Allen plus 3.5, which hit. Now, when we look at just some stats, because like I said about the co-main event, this is going to be a chess match as well. Imavov is 6'3", 75-inch reach. Izzy 6'4", 80-inch reach. Izzy obviously 4 significant strikes per minute. Imavov 4.5. 36% takedown accuracy. We might see Imavov wrestle here. We know that he's going to try to pressure Izzy on the cage as much as possible, but he doesn't present that fear that other fighters or other, he kind of gives that Cannonier, where Cannonier was trying to do that with Izzy at some point, and Vittori was trying to do that. And that doesn't really work against Izzy. Now, Izzy's slowing down. It's a 5-rounder. He might not be able to get out of those positions as he used to be, especially because Imavov still has, a pretty solid reach. He might just, as soon as Izzy levels out from the cage, he might get pieced up a little bit. That might be Imavov's game plan at some point. We don't really know. But regardless of that, I still lean Izzy here. And I know it's a little biased, I guess, since my name's Izzy too, but this is a massive step up for Imavov. Like I said, I mean, he's a dog on the feet, but Izzy's a different level, and I will not, until I'm proven otherwise, that Izzy's just completely regressed as a fighter. He can beat up-and-comers like Imavov too. He absolutely can. Now, after that, I don't know, it's scary. Now, when we see the odds, Izzy's a minus 164 on FanDuel, a minus 155 on DraftKings. Opened at a minus 130, was at a minus 180, and has just been going up. Now, I'm going to bet on Izzy. I'm going to tell you straight up, and I'm going to bet a straight minus 155. Sorry, minus 155. I'll do it. I don't care. Imavov plus 128 on FanDuel. Open at plus 164. This makes sense. There's a reason why this is happening, and it makes sense. He's a great fighter. I just lean Izzy. So give me Izzy to win this by TKO or decision. And that concludes UFC Saudi. Like I said, only 11 fights. We have 4 dogs. 4 dogs, 2 in the prelims, 2 in the main card. It's going to be a fun card. Like I said, only the second video on the channel so far. I'm going to be doing other bets, other videos for bets and things like that as well. That'll probably be the next video, so stay tuned for that. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Obviously, please like, subscribe, comment who you think the lockers of the week is, to be honest. I have my own parlay of the week that we've been killing. 11 of our last 13. Lost our last week, which was a gut-wrenching loss. But it is what it is. We'll bounce back. And I'll see you in the next one.